If you have a fearful, shy, sensitive, maybe aggressive dog, then you're going to want to keep watching this video, because today we are talking about why you should not let strangers give treats to your dog while he's shy. Keep watching. What's up, guys? It's Jenna with Dog Liaison, where I coach you on how to enhance your dog's mental health. On this channel, we break down scientific research, so if you are like me and you like breaking down nerdy content, make sure you hit subscribe. Let's get into it. So today we are talking about why you should not let strangers feed your fearful dog. Now, this would be like in the case of when you have a guest come through the door, or maybe you're out for a walk and a stranger wants to say hello. A lot of times people will hand treats off to the person and have the person give their dog the treat. And you probably have done this at some point in the past. Now, for the most part, I don't recommend that. Perhaps more mild feared dogs that might be just having a moment with a particular case, might benefit from having a stranger hand them treats. But I argue that the vast majority of dogs you don't want to do this for. If you feel like your dog is not just having a mild case of fear, but this is actually an ongoing issue with people, that they continue to be sensitive with strangers, then you definitely want to stop having strangers feed. Let's get into why that is. The first reason that you would not want to have a stranger feed your dog is because, first of all, it's really unsafe. Think about it. When you have a person put their hand right up to your dog's face, the risk for a bite is exponentially higher, just simply because the hand is so close to their mouth. And we know that dogs that are afraid are much more likely to aggress. So just from a safety standpoint alone, it doesn't quite make sense to have a person hand to their face. Now, as an alternative, you may have heard that you can feed to the floor, which absolutely, feeding to the floor wholeheartedly is a better option than having a stranger feed to the mouth. But I really want to emphasize that if you're going to have a stranger feed to the floor, then it needs to be thrown at the dog, not necessarily by the person, and then the dog has to walk forward. Now, in a moment, I'm going to get to why that is. It's going to be a little bit later in the video, but I do recommend that if by some chance you absolutely have to have the stranger give the treat and you're not capable of doing it, then you're gonna want to make sure that the stranger is dropping it to the floor and throwing it at the dog, not near their own body. The second reason that you would want to have you feed your own dog as opposed to the stranger or the guest in your home feeding your dog is because you want to think about your dog's perception of the situation. Now, your dog is fearful, your dog is sensitive, your dog is already apprehensive about the situation. He's already skeptical about this person. Who is he more likely to trust? Is he more likely to trust the person that he's never met before and just walked into his house 2 seconds ago? Or is he more likely to trust you, who feeds him, nurtures him, communicates with him, has a relationship with him? Probably your dog is more likely to trust your input than the stranger's input. So if you're the one giving the treats, if you're the one giving the information, he's much more likely to believe you than to believe some person he's never met who's like, believe me, I love you. I promise I have a treat. I want to be your friend. That's the second reason why you would want to have you, the owner, be feeding the treats, not the stranger. Really quick before we go into the third reason why you wouldn't want the person to feed the dog, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit like. If this is new information, make sure you tell me in the comment section below. And if you're interested in more content like this, make sure to hit subscribe. So the third reason why you would want to have you feeding your dog instead of the stranger is because you want to make sure that your dog doesn't start to think that the food is being held for ransom. So earlier we were talking about why you wouldn't want to have the treat near the person's body or in the person's hand, but you would want to have the treat closer to the dog. This is because if the dog feels like he has to approach, he has to come near the scary thing in order to get his treat, this can start to create the negative association with the treat. And the analogy I always go with is a tarantula. Let's say that there's a $100 bill underneath a tarantula, and a person tells you, you can have the $100, but you have to sneak it out from underneath the tarantula first. You might be willing to get the $100 bills out of the tarantula the first time, and you might even be willing to do it the second time, depending on how desperate you are for $100 bills. But pretty soon you're gonna go, you know what? This hasn't helped my association with the tarantula. I still hate the tarantula. I still hate the process. And now the $100 bills is no longer worth it. Now let's also assume that you're wealthy. Let's say you have $1 billion $100 bills in your account. Then when someone says, well, hey, you can have this $100, but you have to get it underneath the tarantula, you're going, psh, I don't need the $100 that much. The tarantula can have it. This is what happens with dogs all the time. They either go, A, I don't really need that treat. I have a bunch up here. That person can have that treat. Or B, they say, I'll take it once, I'll take it twice, but you know what? I still haven't overcome my fear with the scary person. It's not worth continuing to grab underneath the scary person to get my treat. Which is one of the reasons you want to have the treat near the dog as opposed to near the person. You shouldn't make the dog be working that hard to get the food. He should know that the food is coming to him. He does not need to approach the scary tarantula in order to get his yummy treat. The other reason that you would want to make sure you're the one giving the treats is actually more to do with the later half of learning. This wouldn't necessarily be the case for a dog who is first starting off his training experience. He's still very skittish. But let's say that your dog has been going through his training practices for a while now. He's doing better with people. He's actually enjoying the company of people now. Let's say that's the case. Well, if you've spent so much time giving the treats off to other people to get him desensitized to people, then what you've inadvertently taught him is that every single time he goes up to a person, the person's going to hand out him yummy treats. And so now he thinks when he walks out into the world, all of the people are there just to feed him. That's why they exist, is just to go give him treats, which sets up the wrong pretense, right? It's a false pretense, is that no, just because you're out in the world doesn't necessarily mean people are going to be handing you treats left and right. We don't want him to set him up for that false expectations. And what can sometimes happen when you do this is that the other people in the world gain more value than you. And remember that you are in competition with the world. You always need to be the most valuable thing in the space. So if he has it in his mind that every single stranger in the world is going to be giving him treats, he's obviously going to value other people more than you. But if you have the history of giving the treats and these other people are cool, they're keeping him safe, but they're not as cool as mom or dad because mom and dad gives me hot dogs and chicken, now he's more likely to spend most of his time checking in with you. Doesn't necessarily mean he's scared of the people in the world, it just means that you still have more of the value. So you do want to make sure you're the one giving the food. You want to make sure you're the one giving the value, the information, the clarity, and not necessarily letting the strangers give unpredictable information, untrustworthy information, and potentially setting false pretenses. If you want to know why you would want to give treats to a fearful dog, make sure you check out this video. And if you have any questions on this content, make sure you to ask me in the comments below, and let me know if you enjoyed this video by hitting like, and I'll see you guys soon.